Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the New Testament and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21. And Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw a poor widow putting in 2 small copper coins. And he said, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For they all put in out of the surplus, but into the offering she has put in out of her poverty, all that she had to live on." While some were talking about the temple, that it was adorned with beautiful stones and votive gifts, he said, "As for these things which you are looking at, the days will come in which there will not be left one stone upon another, which will not be torn down." They questioned him, saying, "Teacher, when therefore will these things be? What will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" And he said, See to it that you are not misled, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is near. Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and disturbances, do not be terrified, for these things must take place first, but the end does not follow immediately. Then he continued by saying to them, Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be great earthquakes, and in various places plagues and famines, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all of these things they will lay their hands on you and will persecute you, delivering you to the synagogues and prisons, bringing you before kings and governors for my name's sake. It will lead to an opportunity for your testimony. So make up your minds not to prepare beforehand to defend yourselves, for I will give you utterance and wisdom which none of your opponents will be able to resist or refute. But you will be betrayed even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. And you will be hated by all because of my name, yet not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your lives. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that her desolation is near. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains, and those who are in the midst of the country must leave, and those who are in the country must not enter the city, because these days are days of vengeance, so that all things which are written will be fulfilled. Woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days, for there will be great distress upon the land and wrath to this people, and they will fall by the edge of the sword, and will be led into captivity into all the nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. There will be signs in sun and moon and stars, and on the earth dismay among nations, in perplexity at the roaring of the sea and waves, men fainting from fear and expectation of the things which are coming upon the world, for the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these things begin to take place, straighten up and lift up your head, because your redemption is drawing near. Then he told them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the leaves. As soon as it puts forth leaves, you see it and know for yourselves that summer is now near. So you also, when you see these things happening, recognize that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Be on guard, so that your hearts will not be weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of life, and that the day will not come upon you suddenly like a trap, for it will come upon all those who dwell on the face of the earth. But keep on the alert at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are about to take place, and to stand before the Son of Man. Now, during the day he was teaching in the temple, but at evening he would go out and spend the night on the mount that is called Olivet. And all the people would get up early in the morning to come to him in the temple to listen to him. One thought. Thinking about the end times always weirded me out a little bit as a kid and a teenager, because I had hopes and dreams. I had things that I wanted to do, and it felt like those things would get cut short if Jesus were to come back. But as I've gotten a little bit older, the end times and thinking about those things and Jesus' return has actually filled me with great hope, and I hope to convince you that thinking about these things doesn't necessarily need to lead to hysteria or fear, but for us as believers, it should lead us to a confident expectation, a hope for the future. Luke 21 largely contains what's also known as the Olivet Discourse, and it pops up in the other Gospels in Matthew 24 and in Mark 13. Now, to read this passage properly, we need to remember that Jesus is fulfilling the role of the last great Hebrew prophets, like the prophets of the Old Testament. When you read Old Testament prophecy, you see that the prophets often intermingled many different events at once. Some of these events were happening in their day, some of them were soon to happen, and some of them were far off in the distance, but the prophets often intermingle all of them together. And Jesus mixes together the destruction of the temple that's about to happen in 70 AD and his second coming. I think what Jesus is doing here is he's more or less saying that the destruction of the temple in 70 AD is like a picture of the persecution and the destruction that will come upon the world at his second coming. It's a sign, the sign of what will come. So we see clearly that Jesus is talking to his disciples in his day, and he says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies. That's clearly talking about the destruction of the temple 70 AD. And the temple and Jerusalem were surrounded by the Roman armies. And verses 20 through 24 talk about all the persecutions of that day. The disciples should flee the city. People should make sure that they don't go into the city because it's about to be destroyed and the temple will be overthrown. We know from historical sources that there was gold that melted down in between many of the stones of the temple, and the Roman soldiers did not leave one stone unturned as they gouged out that gold and melted it down to take with them as well. But then this passage moves seamlessly into the second coming when it says there will be signs in sun and moon and perplexity, and people will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with great power and glory. And we see, what is the second coming? What does Jesus' second coming do for the world? It says men fainting from fear. So the second coming, for those that don't believe, is not a good thing. And it creates anxiety and fear. But what does it do for us, the church, God's people, for believers? It says in verse 28, but when these things begin to take place, straighten up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. When you straighten up and you lift up your head, it's a sign of confidence. It's a sign that things are going well, right? It's like a sunny day out, maybe the first really nice day after a long winter, right? When it's winter and it's cold and there's rain and there's snow and there's wind, you put your hood on and you put your head down and you're kind of slumped over, shuffling in and out of work, in and out of home to the car. And it's just a miserable time, right? But that first day of spring, when it's super nice out, you lift up your head, you take off the jacket, you straighten up, and you're just enjoying it. That time, it means good things are on the horizon, and you're walking with confidence. That's what the second coming should do for us as believers. So, right, like if thinking about the future fills you with anxiety and fear, then you're not thinking about it properly. If discussions about the end times, if discussions about Jesus' second coming fill you with anxiety and fear and make you go off into a tizzy, then you're not being biblical in your thinking. The second coming is a good thing. It should lead us with confidence and hope. And these words remind us that Jesus' return, it's not just an event to anticipate, right? But it's also a reality that shapes how we live today. Because for us, as God's people, even though we will go through very difficult times, the fact that Jesus is coming again is a source of strength and hope. It means that no matter how dark the world appears to be getting, our redemption is drawing near, that the light will always break through.